Hey, everybody. I wanted to do this quick training on the 4 manager archetypes because I just did this with my high level CEOs and they found a ton of value in it. Because one of the biggest issues you have when you're scaling to multiple locations, operating multiple locations, is literally with your managers, right? Because your managers are the ones that are your hands and literally are doing the things that will make the organization run either well or poorly or get you to your goals or not. So I just wanted to break down the 4 different manager archetypes and some of the biggest risks that they have and some of the biggest issues they encounter, so you'll be able to coach them better and get your business in a better place. So I'm just going to share my screen here and I'll draw this out for you. And by the way, my drawing is absolutely terrible, so I'm going to apologize in advance for that. All right, let's get this going. So this is based off of what's called a disc profile. So if you're familiar with a disc profile, this will make some more sense for you guys. So let me just open this up here. Okay, perfect. So let's do this. Big circle, and there's 4 different quadrants. And so we are going to label them. All right, perfect. So the different manager quadrants that we have, I'm going to break them down. So we've got the doer is under D. Idea is the best way to exemplify this one. It's basically, you could say slow and steady, but let's say steady. And again, my writing is terrible and I apologize. And C would be for correct. Now, these are kind of the 4 manager archetypes. Obviously, if you're familiar with this will be a little bit different from that and similar in the same time. But here's the big thing. So D managers, and this is a very common one. This is probably the most common in leadership and management. You could be a D. What we notice is that D managers can be very, very focused on results. They are assertive, blunt. They can be abrupt if someone's not doing something right. Like, hey, you're doing it wrong. Do it this way. Like, hey, you're not going fast enough. Let's go faster. In a situation of high stress, these are the people that are going to be barking orders and going, hey, you go there, you go there, you do this, you do that. They are going to take control and they are going to be very short, to the point. It's all about getting it done. They generally also don't give a lot of praise or encouragement to people because, again, the objective is getting it done. They don't have time to say, oh, well, you did a great job there. Thank you for that. Instead, they're like, get it done now. And they often don't see the correlation between longevity of employees and actually, communicating properly with them. They can be demanding. And the really interesting part here is D's will, all of these types of managers can have different turnover implications, but D's are usually the most obvious for turnover. Because D's coming in, they will get more results right away than you probably have ever have seen before. But what you will notice is you will start losing employees pretty quickly. And the reason I say that is because D's are all about getting the results and getting things done that they need to, but it often comes at the expense of the people that they are working with. So they can get them in the short term. But again, if you are blunt, abrupt, and you don't encourage people, like that will end up getting some people to leave your organization. So you can get results in the short term, not so much in the long term. So if you notice someone coming in and they are displaying those character traits, the work you have to do with them is actually to get them to be more understanding, probably to slow down. They are going to hate hand-holding. They are going to hate, in-depth training with people, but these are going to be vital to the ability for your business to move forward. Because if you don't correct this stuff, you will end up with massive turnover on your hands, no one wanting to stay in place. And then you're going to end up having even worse results because they're going to have no one to work with you. So now the next manager archetype stands for ideas. So the reason I say ideas here is because they are really excited. They are, generally full of energy and they're bubbly. They love to work with other people and they've got tons of ideas. But some of the biggest downfalls for a manager like this is they're going to be the nicest person in the world. Everyone's going to love them. but things won't always get accomplished because they're going to be trying to do too many things at once. And they're going to be so focused on people, but not always focused on the results. They're going to be doing lots of stuff, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get to where you want to go because they generally are unfocused. So they could have 100 ideas and they could implement none of them. So that's the tendency we often see with I managers. They can also take things personally. So they will take feedback really hard if a team member doesn't like them. They have a hard time giving feedback with people because they're worried about how that will jeopardize their relationship. And they often take things very, very personally. So you're going to see more emotion come out in the way things are handled. If something doesn't go well, they will take it much more personally. So you're going to notice a bigger emotional component when you're dealing with I managers. And they really have a tough time if they're not recognized for their efforts. So if they put in lots of effort and they do not get recognized, it will deflate them. And so basically what this means is that they will lose their will to continue to put in that level of effort if they don't feel they're being recognized for it. Because to them, what would be the point of doing it if they're not getting recognized? So those are some of the issues that you're going to see with I style managers. So what I wanted to throw out here is that if you know someone like this, compliment them a little bit more. And that will definitely go a long way. So you've probably already recognized a couple of these people that either you've had in the past, maybe managers you've had or seen or employed or whatnot. So let's dive into a couple of the other ones. So now, an S manager stands for steady. Now, S's are all about just kind of slow and steady and stability. They don't really react well to change. If there's too much change, it's going to make them really anxious. They generally also are quite quiet. They don't ask for help. These will be the people that will do more and do more and do more until one day they are yelling at you because you didn't support them with something, 6 months before that you didn't even know was an issue. S's do have a hard time speaking up for themselves. They can be really, really accommodating to people, more accommodating to others than they are of themselves. Again, change is difficult. One of the things that we find here for S's, they have a really hard time holding people accountable. And so I see this all the time, is that an S in a leadership position, if someone doesn't do something properly, they will really have a hard time holding them accountable because they don't want to hurt their feelings. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to make things uncomfortable. They want everyone to be happy and get along, right? But if they don't do that, then there's no standards in the organization and everyone's frustrated because it's a free-for-all and then no one's happy. So that's a point that I wanted to make there. But S's are generally very slow to do something. They're genuine. They're really nice. They're very likable people, but things won't get accomplished. People won't get held accountable. You find deadlines won't get met, and they generally won't ask for help when doing this. So that is an S style. Now, there is a C style as well, which stands for correct. Now, these types of managers can be so focused on accuracy that it doesn't really matter about timelines as much. They would rather get it 100% right than 80% correct and on time. They'd rather be 2 weeks late with it, but have it done perfectly. They can be too cautious. They can overanalyze all the time. And because of that, they're always in their head and not executing on the things that needs to get executed on. So they can be also really, really focused on minor details, which is really going to overwhelm everyone else because they'll lose sight of the big picture along the way, but they'll be very focused on getting the small things right. So what you'll notice is an organization that does things really, really well, but extremely slowly, and doesn't actually meet the objectives. So here's what I wanted to say about all four, because there are issues with all four archetypes of managers. There's no one that is necessarily better than the other. The better manager will be the one who understands themselves and is able to adapt to what needs to happen. So let me go over this. So for the doer, again, you can get great results temporarily, and end up not having those results in the future because you're going to have no team members left. And then the doer has a hard time delegating because no one can do it as fast or as good as them. So they tend to take more on themselves and do more themselves. And then they turn around and go, well, how come no one's helping? How come I'm the only one that's doing this? And then they'll get frustrated and angry with other people and kind of like let it out on them. But it's also them that needs to understand that their expectations probably need to decrease a little bit. The reason I say this is because if they don't do that, they will churn out of management very quickly, out of frustration, and it will be everyone else's fault except for theirs. So this is something we see very commonly. And if we don't fix this, you won't have a team left. For the idea managers, they have a hard time holding people accountable because they don't want people to think badly of them. And so they don't want to jeopardize their relationship. They don't want to appear like the bad guy. So what often happens is they want to get recognized for doing great things, but by not holding people accountable, the business doesn't actually achieve their objectives. And because they're so unfocused, they end up not getting the recognition that they want because they haven't adapted and overcome to these specific challenges. So if left unchecked, you will have a team that is super fun and exciting, but doesn't actually achieve any of their objectives. And eventually that will create turmoil, and it will basically give you the opposite of what they were wanting, because then no one actually gets anything accomplished. No one's happy, right? And very similar for the S's. They have a hard time holding people accountable because they don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't want to rock the boat. But because they don't do this, then there's no standards and it's kind of a free for all. And then no one's happy because nothing happens properly. Because then who wants to work in a place where they always have to pick up the slack for other people who aren't held accountable? Nobody, right? So S's generally create the opposite of what they want by not doing what they need to override their own inclinations. So what an S would need to do is actually be more like a D in short increments and hold people more accountable so that the standards are set. Now for a C, what you will notice if this doesn't get corrected is an organization who moves very, very slowly and doesn't achieve what they want to, and someone who's very, very focused on very small details, which might really not matter to the bigger picture. I've seen people talk about, period going here or capitalization of this, which sure are important, but it's actually more important to get the message out to the whole team when they need it, rather than have it be absolutely perfect grammatically. So that could be, a hold up there, or anyway. So what you'll notice is that if they don't overcome these and actually move forward a little bit faster and be okay with 80% correct in a lot of things, you'll find an organization that will grind to a halt, and just won't achieve any results at all. So I hope this was helpful. I hope as I'm going through this, you're like, oh yeah, I had a manager that did that, or, oh, that sounds like my manager right now. And if these are the issues you're facing, let me know. I'm happy to talk through it with you, because there are ways to navigate all of this, but it all starts with knowing your own tendencies and then working to, I guess, get better. I was going to say counteract them, but basically improve things, to be a more well-rounded manager, because realistically, the goal is we need to be more over here. They need to be more over here. And we're actually trying to strive for this middle. We have our own tendencies, but if we could all put those a little bit in line and adapt to some of the other quadrants as well, we would end up being the ideal manager and the ideal owner. And that will help our organization push through, get the results we want, and get where we want to go. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. We'll see you soon.